Welcome to week 1 of Family Pharmacy. This week we're covering an introduction to herbalism, herbal actions, energetics, tastes, and affinities, protocol strategies, herbalism as your daily practice, an equipment list, and making medicinal strength infusions. I am so excited you all are here. Welcome again to Family Pharmacy. So we are going to dive right into deepening your understanding of plant medicine and specifically how to use herbal medicine to support yourself and your loved ones through common and consistent health challenges. At the end of the course, you'll feel confident that when the cold, the flu, or allergy season comes around, or when you have a sprain, or when your child comes home with a stomach virus, that you'll be able to go into your own pantry and get the medicine you need and make it with skill instead of worry. We are going to make lots of medicine in our time together, so get your pots and your strainers ready. And just to give you a very quick backstory on why this course exists, I was doing research on the history of medicine in the United States, particularly African American health practices, and what stood out to me was that it was commonplace for every family to have their own herbal, meaning their own family cookbook in a sense of mostly herbal recipes and practices that they would turn to when someone in the family or community got ill. Medicine wasn't hoarded, it was shared because there was understanding, particularly within Indigenous and African American enslaved communities, that one person's illness was everyone's illness because we are living collectively and therefore we take care of each other. All of us, whether we have direct ties to it or not, come from a rich legacy of healers, conjurers, herbalists, and medicine people. Many of us are disconnected from the knowledge. For several generations, particularly with the growth of modern medicine, many people don't know about the herbs, recipes, and remedies that their family members used with proficiency, regularity, and effectively. Look where this disconnection has gotten us, where people genuinely do not know how to take care of themselves, where people are more apt to run to the drugstore or to pop a pill for an ailment that is not only preventable, but treatable at home, where there is so much evidence that says 90% of all diseases are related to lifestyle, stress, and diet, yet folks have no idea where to begin in turning their health around for the better. This course fills the gap. You being here makes you a part of the solution to our health crisis, and most importantly, you being here means you are reclaiming the legacy and power of your people. No matter your ethnicity, your cultural background, herbal medicine is everyone's medicine because plants and humans evolved on this planet together, because plants are the most biologically compatible medicine with our bodies, because herbalism has been practiced by every culture on this planet. And because, believe it or believe it, herbalism is still the #1 modality in the world. Modern medicine has its place and its real benefits, like in emergency medicine, but globally, more people turn to plants for their care because they work and always will. What is herbalism? Herbalism is the study of how plants help you heal. In a medical context where we're considering the constituents in the plants, meaning the antioxidants, the alkaloids, the terpenes, the flavonoids, the vitamins and minerals, and other compounds within the plants that make physiological changes in our bodies. But herbalism encompasses so much more than physical healing and supporting your general well-being. We go into much more detail on the mental, emotional, and spiritual shifts that working with herbs creates within us inside of our most comprehensive program, Herbal Medicine for the Soul. But I want to plant the seed now, pun intended, that when you invite plants into your daily wellness practices, your self-care toolbox, and your healthcare regimen, as you will be doing here, know that they are supporting your whole being, not just your body. And set an intention now to feel some of the subtle yet profound mental, emotional, and spiritual shifts that they can create within you. Additionally, because we are primarily, but not always solely, using plants as our medicine for the body, herbalism also means that we have to understand the body, which is why we'll cover a little anatomy and physiology here, the foundations. And with knowing how the body works, we have to consider the factors that get in the body's way. Your body is a self-healing temple. Every cell and therefore every tissue, organ, and system in your body monitors, regulates, detoxifies, generates, builds, and sustains its vitality. A fundamental belief in herbal medicine is that your baseline of health is wellness, strength, and vitality. This is a very different view of the body than the modern paradigm, which approaches health from the belief that the body breaks, needs to be fixed, and assumes that illness is inevitable and can only be corrected with pills and invasive procedures. What is true is that you have your optimal state of well-being. It may not look like someone else's, but you have the ability to feel so good. And most importantly, your body has the intelligence to restore and maintain that good feeling state, which is called homeostasis. So the fundamental question is, what strips us of our vitality? Exploring this question is also a part of herbalism, because we can't talk about well-being without talking about the factors that prevent it. Factors like pollution and diet, stress, a disease process, too much or too little movement, and even your thoughts, because the content of your mind affects your physiology. I never want to give you the impression that drinking tea will solve all of your problems. It will not, especially if you maintain unhealthy habits. So as we go week by week, of course you'll learn about the plants and the body, but you'll also be encouraged every week to consider the elements in your life and lifestyle that contribute to less than optimal health and make appropriate changes that support your thriving. Herbal actions, energetics, tastes, and affinities. Now it's time to get familiar with the language of herbal medicine. In this section, we're going to talk about herbal actions, energetics, tastes, and affinities. All of these elements help us choose the right plant or combination of plants to suit our needs. These terms, some of which are unique to herbal medicine and others you will be familiar with, provide us with insight into how the plants create physiological changes in our bodies. Herbal actions. Herbal actions refers to the specific effects and functions of medicinal plants within the body. These actions describe the physiological activity the herb performs on the body. In simpler terms, herbal actions help us understand what the herb does in the body. We know what the herb does based on the constituents within the plant. For example, lavender is antimicrobial. The herbal action is the word antimicrobial. Antimicrobial means that it can kill or inhibit the growth of microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Lavender has several constituents within it, two of which are linalool and linalool acetate. Among other microorganisms, these constituents inhibit the growth of Candida albicans, the fungi that, when overgrown, most commonly leads to yeast infections. Every herb has several herbal actions because they are composed of several constituents. Just like our bodies have blood vessels and organs and different types of cells, hair, etc., plants also have many different structures, tissues, and cell types and functions that help them grow, survive, defend themselves, and reproduce. Through the example of lavender, I want you to see that there is a connection between what the herb is made of and what the herb does that gives us the herbal action. Linalool is one of the constituents. It is antimicrobial. Therefore, when we use lavender, it has an antimicrobial effect on our body. Understanding herbal actions helps us select the plants that address our physiological needs. Here is your homework. In the download section, there is a document called Herbal Actions Definitions. Print this document, read it, refer to it as often as you need to, and for those who like extra credit, make flashcards. You are going to see these terms every week here as we go through the Materia Medica, which are our plant profiles. As you continue your herbal studies, you are going to see these terms in every herb book. This is a huge part of the language of plants that you need to understand. And here's why. Because of how information on herbs gets distributed, be it through micro-learning on social media or blog posts, people think and often search for herbs for ailment. For example, herbs for stomach aches. A search like this will generate a list of hundreds of plants, which is only helpful to the degree that you will pick the plant you are most familiar with. But understanding herbal actions and what's happening in your body help you make a better plant choice. A stomach ache from spasming is not the same as a stomach ache from excess gas. The herbal action antispasmodic helps with spasms, while the herbal action carminative helps release flatulence. Get it? Print your herbal actions definitions document and get a binder to keep it in, along with all of the notes you'll be taking throughout this course, and keep it close. I will not define each herbal action each week, but I will explain important nuances as we cover the benefits of the different herbs. So keep your herbal actions definitions close by, and don't hesitate to pause the video at any time and refer back to it as you need to. Energetics. Herbal energetics is a phrase that's unique to herbal medicine and encompasses characteristics and qualities of plants that help us understand how to choose plants that are most compatible with us. Energetics also help us understand how the plants create shifts in our body, mind, and spirit. There are several qualities that can be included in the study of herbal energetics, such as, but definitely not limited to, planetary rulerships. So this is a part of medical astrology where plants are categorized in terms of how they express the qualities of astrological signs and planets, much like you have your sun, moon, rising signs, etc. We go into this in great detail inside Herbal Medicine for the Soul. Elemental correspondences. This is considering if the plant has dominant qualities of earth, energy, air, fire, water, ether, or a combination. Doctrine of signatures. With doctrine of signatures, you're looking at how the plant physically resembles the physical body and can be used to assist with alleviating imbalances in that particular part of the body. Some examples include ginkgo biloba, which is shaped like the brain and is an excellent cerebral memory herb. Devil's claw looks like deformed fingers and is an excellent remedy for the musculoskeletal system, relieving inflammation and arthritis. These are just a few examples of herbal energetics. All traditional health modalities, from African and indigenous to Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, developed a classification system for our understanding the spirit, consciousness, language, and effects of plants, as well as how to pair them to people. One of the simplest ways to start understanding herbal and constitutional energetics of people is through two questions I ask all of my private clients about their constitution. Do you run hot or cold? Do you run damp or dry? So take a moment to pause the video and think about your body's tendencies. Here are some patterns to consider. Hot. Folks who run hot typically feel warmer than others. It's the folks who wear shorts in the winter. They tend to have a loud voice, speak directly, are opinionated, have big appetites, are active, and may be hot-headed. Their physical imbalances tend to lean toward high fevers, rashes, redness, inflammation, sweating, burnout from overactivity and irritability. From an energetic perspective, because these folks run hot, herbs that are energetically cooling will provide them with relief. Cold. People who run cold often feel chilled and may have body temperature fluctuations on the lower end. They always have a jacket or a blanket nearby just in case. They may have quieter voices, lower energy, and cold extremities due to poor circulation. People who run cold benefit from herbs that are energetically warming and improve circulation. I hope you're starting to see how this is coming together. Damp. Individuals with a tendency toward dampness may experience symptoms such as excess mucus and perspiration, swelling, bloating, or a feeling of heaviness. The hair and skin may be oily or clammy, and they may dislike humid conditions. When imbalanced, excess dampness looks like congestion, edema, digestive issues as well. Herbs that are drying and pungent, which we'll get to in a bit, will encourage balance for damp folks. And dry. Folks who lean toward dryness often experience symptoms like dry skin, dry mucous membranes, constipation, or a general lack of moisture in their body in terms of both oil and water. They may be prone to conditions like dry coughs, dry eyes, itchy skin. Herbs with moistening qualities or demulcent properties can help alleviate dryness and provide hydration. When we discuss herbs each week, there will be a section that names the energetic properties of the herb. For now, start developing awareness of your constitutional tendencies and those of your loved ones. Observation is key. We all have our own unique baseline of health, and as previously mentioned, there are a number of factors that can throw us out of balance. While you have a unique constitution that doesn't change throughout your life, when you're sick for a short or extended period of time, it can throw off your constitutional alignment. When we are sick, we address the illness first while being mindful not to push ourselves to an extreme state. And when we are well, we focus on maintaining our constitutional balance. All of this guides herb selection and what's most appropriate at that time. Tastes. So, taste is another very important aspect to understanding the language of herbal medicine and to understanding the plants themselves. In a society where we're always on the go, we eat on the run, shovel food into our mouths, and therefore don't tune into the experience of taste. Channel your ancestors for a moment and imagine a family gathering where the meal was savored, enjoyed slowly, and memories were formed. Before we had the internet where we could look everything up, or the development of scientific technologies where we could identify, isolate, study individual plant constituents, our ancestors learned about the natural world through observation and experience. Through awareness of the seasons and growth cycles, and by living in closer alignment with the rhythms of the natural world, they discovered the correlation between plant tastes and physiological activity. Now we know through science what they understood through connection. Tastes are another way we understand plant actions and indications based on their constituents. So let's go through the primary 5 tastes and the 6th, which is more of a sensation. Sour. The sour taste is cooling depending on the modality. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, 2 ancient healing modalities, interpret it differently. But many sour herbs are also astringent, which we'll cover in a bit. Sour has an affinity for the heart and liver and promotes digestion and detoxification, increases appetite, and helps to dispel gas. Sour nourishes and tones the tissues. It clears heat, reduces inflammation, and free radical damage. Many sour herbs are also antioxidant. It also promotes metabolism, circulation, and cognitive functioning. The sour taste can largely be attributed to the acids and tannins contained within the herbs or a fruit. Some examples of sour herbs include hibiscus, sumac, and hawthorn berry. The bitter taste is cooling and has an affinity for the digestive system. While the least enjoyed, bitter is the most common taste found among many medicinal herbs, and for good reason, because it plays a really important role in our digestion. We have bitter taste receptors in our mouths, all along our digestive tract, and even in our lungs. Bitter helps to stimulate digestion by helping us salivate, produce and secrete digestive enzymes that help us break down food, and help with peristalsis, the muscular movement in our intestines that keeps food, then waste, moving along so we eliminate properly. Many people's digestive complaints will be remedied by incorporating more bitters into their diets. Bitter has a cleansing effect on the body, as many bitter plants help to remove heat, modulate inflammation, and clear toxins. Bitter herbs are often also aromatic because they contain volatile oils which produce strong smells. They can also be antiparasitic and laxative. Some bitter herbs are dandelion, motherwort, and skullcap. Pungent or acrid. The pungent taste is warming and spicy, so they help increase circulation and warm the body from the core outward, which also helps thin fluid congestion. Pungent herbs are stimulating, moving, enlivening to the senses, and helping with bodily systems that are underactive and sluggish. They open up the pores and sinuses. Many of our culinary herbs like garlic, cayenne pepper, cardamom, black pepper are pungent. Salty. The salty taste is associated with the kidneys. This taste is high in mineral content such as potassium, calcium, magnesium, and iron. Salt is associated with dissolving masses like kidney stones, removing moisture and phlegm, and softening hardness because salty herbs often contain compounds that help break down mucus and other blockages in the body. Salt impacts the moisture levels in our bodies. For example, salt attracts water, but water is retained when we have excess sodium. Through osmosis, salty herbs can help draw fluid out of the tissues and into the bloodstream. The salty taste can be found in herbs like stinging nettle leaf, chickweed, and our seaweeds. It's important to note that other than our seaweeds, which taste salty, this is a subtle taste and not the same as like adding salt to your food. Sweet. The sweet taste is nourishing, balancing, and building, but curb your enthusiasm as the sweet taste in herbs is not like eating a donut. It's a subtle sweetness that we taste in root vegetables and in grains. Sweet herbs can contain saponins and or complex sugar molecules called polysaccharides, which are carbohydrates and energy source for our bodies. Sweet through herbs, not added sugar, is often anti-inflammatory, tonifying, demulcent, cooling, and adaptogenic, and can help reduce stress and restore energy levels. Some examples of sweet herbs include fennel, marshmallow root, and burdock root. Astringent. So astringency is more of a sensation than a taste. It is a sensation of tightening, closing, and drying, like when you eat a persimmon. Astringency closes pores, tones tissue, and is overall drying to the body. Astringents are cooling and can be felt on the tongue as a noticeable or rapid drying sensation, and it is mostly attributed to the presence of tannins. It's useful in conditions where there's excess fluid loss like diarrhea or profuse sweating or excessive bleeding, as astringency tightens the tissues, thereby curbing that fluid loss. On the skin, astringency can be felt as a tightening sensation. Astringent herbs include black tea, witch hazel, and rose. An excellent way to understand taste is to, you guessed it, taste herbs individually. Get to know them one at a time so that you can feel these subtleties in your body and so that you can experience the different tastes that you'll have from one herb. Herbal medicine is an experiential discipline and study. It is not something you can simply learn by consuming information. You must work with the plants and develop awareness of how they make you feel. Now, on to organ and system affinities. So, organ and system affinities are another vital aspect of herbal medicine, traditionally based on the observations that people made between the plants and how people were responding. You can think of organ and system affinities like a classification system that helps us understand where an herb affects the most change on the body, mind, or spirit. In choosing herbs or creating blends that address specific ailments, organs and system affinities help us understand if the plants we are considering like to work on the body part we need help with. For example, just thinking that you need anti-inflammatory herbs, that's not enough. Many, if not most, plants have some sort of mechanism within them, some range of constituents within them, in which they help reduce excess inflammation. While many herbs may have anti-inflammatory properties, their actions can vary widely in terms of their target organs and systems. For example, some herbs primarily address inflammation in the musculoskeletal system, making them suitable for conditions like arthritis or muscle pain. Others have a stronger affinity for the respiratory system, making them useful for respiratory conditions with inflammation. With organ and system affinities, we can get more specific by understanding where the inflammation is rooted and if that plant or formula has an affinity for that organ or body system. What our ancestors discovered through observation, we can also understand biologically because we know that cells in the liver differ from cells in the lungs, as an example. So on a molecular level, milk thistle, a plant widely known and studied for its benefits to the liver, has constituents that interact with hepatic liver cells. And mullein, most commonly thought of as a lung herb, has constituents that have an affinity for pulmonary lung cells. Up next, we have protocol strategies. So, when I think about developing herbal protocols for different needs, before choosing herbs or making any herbal blends, I think about the needs, and these are some of the questions I consider. Is this medicine for an acute issue? Is this medicine for a chronic issue? Is this medicine for general well being or prevention? Is this medicine for spiritual and emotional support? What's the person's constitution who's going to take this medicine? There are many ways to support yourself and your loved ones with herbal medicine, but understanding who you are, your constitution, and how you need support are the first steps because it will guide your herb selection, your protocol, the dosage, and help you understand the timeline of when to expect shifts and what kinds of results to expect. So here are 3 ways that you can use herbal medicine for your physical healing. Number 1 is for prevention. Number 2 is to address acute concerns. And then number 3 is for long-term restoration from chronic pain and imbalances. Each approach requires a different method and strategy in terms of how you'll use and take the medicine. In general, for prevention, where there isn't a particular ailment that you're trying to heal from, you incorporate nutritive, food-like plants into your everyday diet. Plants like moringa and stinging nettle leaf, hibiscus, oats, red clover, chickweed, dandelion. We will cover some of these plants in this course. The practice that I use for my family is to make weekly family infusions. I'm not trying to address any particular health concern. These blends are not condition specific. My focus is to nourish, support, and maintain or generally improve our baseline of health. So many of the herbs I choose for family infusions support immunity, nutrition, digestion to keep things moving, and our nervous systems. The second way is to address acute concerns. For common conditions like influenzas, COVID, because it's not going anywhere, ear infections, stomach bugs, headaches, first aid, etc. This is largely what we are focusing on inside Family Pharmacy. For this, you can think about the issues that arise within your family or household in a given year, and you set up your home apothecary in such a way that you have the herbs and medicine made ahead of time so that it's ready when you need it. For example, if you have school-aged children, having an antiviral blend of elder, echinacea, boneset, and lemon balm in the pantry is wise. If you are very physically active, work with your hands, do a lot of manual labor, then having herbs for first aid like lavender, plantain, comfrey leaf, already made into a salve would be wise. Our son experiences seasonal allergies, so I know that from February through May and late September to mid-October, he needs our allergy relief tincture. Year-round, we all take our best-selling immunity syrup and, of course, our weekly infusions. Additionally, it's always wise to have nervous system support on deck for stressful times like skullcap, passion flower, and chamomile. Generally speaking, there are no hard and fast rules with herbal medicine, but for acute conditions, since it's short term, you take it or apply it when you need it, perhaps for a couple of days or weeks. When you feel better, you stop. But you can't stop too prematurely. This is the nuance and understanding you'll gain in our time together and as you continue your herbal journey. You have to pay close attention to the symptoms, how they are presenting, the progression, and the relief. The dosage for acute issues is usually more frequent, and depending on the plants or the formulation, you also need slightly, not drastically, higher doses. For example, if you take elderberry tincture for prevention, the dosage guidelines start at maybe 1 teaspoon 3 times per day. Should you start to feel the onset of cold or flu-like symptoms, that dosage changes to 1 teaspoon every 2 to 3 hours. I can't tell you how many times people have declared herbs don't work, when in reality, of course herbs work, but they didn't know the appropriate dosage. The third way to use herbal medicine for your physical needs is to address chronic concerns, which are health issues that persist for longer than 6 weeks. I think some of the confusion is that people don't know when something is acute or chronic and therefore don't know that they need a different approach. If you experience pain every day for a prolonged period of time, like weeks, months, years, and yes, you likely know it's chronic. But what about the person who has migraines, not daily, but sprinkled throughout the year at intervals that they can't predict? You know it's not associated with hormonal fluctuations or a dietary trigger. This person may think they need to take herbal medicine just at the onset of the migraine, but I would counter that because even though it's seemingly unpredictable, it is a chronic experience and needs to be treated as one. For chronic conditions, you need a more complete protocol that includes herbal medicine, dietary, and lifestyle changes that you're likely going to have to follow for several months. The most important element, however, when we're having a chronic experience is to remember that the buildup to physical pain did not happen overnight. It happened over time. Acute issues, when left unaddressed, can quickly spiral into a chronic condition, and chronic issues left unaddressed can quickly spiral into a health crisis. I go into much more detail on how to heal from chronic conditions inside of our advanced program, Herbal Medicine for the Soul. Lastly, the mental, emotional, and spiritual support we can receive from herbs is not spoken about nearly enough, just outside of the herbal world, that is. And I believe that this is actually where we receive the most benefit. Most people only think about how herbs can support our physical bodies. This is helpful for sure, but it's only a small part of their healing. I can best illustrate this with a story. So if I am feeling low-grade anxiety, I don't know why, instead of mentally searching for a reason, I'll make a tincture blend of mimosa flower and bark, milky oats, some catnip, mullein, and calendula, and this blend helps me access the calm that resides within me. Plants help us be more aware of the ways in which we are moving through the world. They grant us pause. They gift us with the invitation to reach for more aligned thoughts and better emotional responses to challenging or just uncomfortable situations. This is important because healing doesn't just happen when the body feels better. Healing also occurs when we show up to the next interaction with more awareness and then make better choices for ourselves. This could look like saying no to an invitation that you would normally say yes to, even when you know you don't have the energy or capacity. The honesty in expressing your no, that's healing. The invitation with herbal medicine here is to pay attention to how you respond to different situations and notice that perhaps there's more ease when there was once tension, agitation, or resistance. I think that everyone, when they begin working with plants, has unique experiences with them that can be deeply personal because they, as living beings with consciousness, merge with our consciousness and offer us what we need. Plants are more than medicine for the body. They are guides, messengers, extensions of source, and medicine for the soul. Now let's talk about herbalism as your daily practice. So you will receive far more benefit from incorporating herbal medicine into your daily routine than through inconsistent use. Only turning to the plants when you have a health issue is reactionary and defensive, and when one of the many gifts of herbalism is that it teaches us how to think ahead. It teaches us to zoom out and look at our lives seasonally and holistically so that we can anticipate our needs and prepare for them. Herbalism teaches us to shift our thinking. Instead of expecting to catch a cold because it's going around, we can ask ourselves, how can I prepare for the upcoming season? How can I fortify my body and that of my loved ones so that our bodies are strong enough to do what they do best to combat the bug while we remain symptom-free? And if I do get sick, what medicine do I need to make now, ahead of time, so that we all recover quickly? Medicine that you don't make or have is useless. Lack of preparation is probably one of the top reasons why people who strive to be holistic have to run to the drugstore for something over the counter. They may have the herbs but don't know how to formulate them or make them when illness strikes. So let's commit to putting an end to the cycle of ill preparation. Let's normalize herbal medicine being a part of your daily routine, just like eating, moving your body according to your condition, and meditation. It is daily practice and a non-negotiable. My plant practice is not something I waver with or dance in and out of. No, because it's my healthcare system. Through experience with my own chronic pain, I have learned that it's far easier to stay healthy than it is to get healthy. So, falling off of my plant practices is a hard no. And I hope you reach the point in your health journey where you discover the practices for yourself that are absolute non negotiables. So, here's what my herbal practice generally looks like. I drink 1 to 2 cups a day of the family infusion I make at the top of the week. Again, these infusions most often fill nutrient gaps, support our immunity, and nourish our digestion and nervous systems. I take swigs of our immunity, heart health, and robust blood signature and best-selling syrups. I always drink 2 to 3 cups of my personal daily infusion. This may be an adaptogen blend, a single herb I'm studying, or a formula I'm working on. I'll also take 3 to 5 dropper fills throughout the day of a tincture blend that supports my current emotional season or supports, me embodying a vision I have for myself. Right now, it's mullein. Herbal baths, I'll take them as often as I need to, and I always have dried plants nearby. For example, because I'm learning from mullein right now in a deeper way, I have a leaf tacked to the wall beside the bed. There are dried herbs hanging in the dining room window. I have sustainably sourced sage and palo santo, copal, frankincense, myrrh, and dragon's blood in various places around the house and our office space to smudge with. On weekends, I generally like to get into the kitchen or the lab and get creative with plants. So this weekend, in between writing and recording this lesson for you all, I plan to gather some of my neighbor's roses to include in a Florida water blend. Now let's talk equipment. I've been making herbal medicine for quite some time now, so I figured out some time-saving hacks and equipment items that will make your medicine making journey fun and efficient. So here are a few of our must-have kitchen items for making your herbal medicine preparations week by week in this course. Don't go out and buy anything just yet, although you will need strainers. So if you don't have those, definitely purchase some strainers. But overall, if you have a full kitchen, you know how to make pasta, you're going to be good to go. Many of the items that we have on this list can be found on our Amazon equipment list. So you can click on an item name and you'll be redirected to the Amazon item. So kitchen scales. Kitchen scales allow us to accurately measure for our recipes so that you can be precise in your medicine making. Infusers, strainers, nut bags, cheesecloths. One that fits directly into your mug is awesome. Nut bags and cheesecloth work well too for large batches of medicine because they allow you to squeeze the medicine out of the herbs. The small tea balls, those are not ideal. You want a blender. This can help us when we need to grind tough herbs down. It can be one of those coffee blenders or a larger blender like a Vitamix. We have both. Usually this would be a high-speed blender, and we need it to be high speed so it can cut those tough herb parts like roots and barks without a problem. An electric tea kettle, this definitely makes the process of making hot water easier. We don't have a microwave. I definitely recommend that you not use the microwave in heating your water. And a juicer, you can probably wait on this, but juicers help, especially with fresh ginger, which I prefer over dried. They helps to make a stronger medicine. So have a juicer on hand. 1/2 gallon glass jars. This is helpful for making and storing large amounts of herbal preparations. Again, if you want to make weekly family infusions, I make 1/2 gallon at a time. So 1/2 gallon glass jar is really helpful. A potato ricer sounds funny, but it actually helps really well to strain herbs and squeeze out all of the infusion from the herb, all of the liquid from the herb. It does it better than you can probably do with your hands. A 16-ounce tumbler. We are a Yeti family. Gosh, I think we have 8 Yeti tumblers of different sizes. They keep our liquids so hot, which is great all day. And also, if we're obviously drinking a chilled beverage, they keep it cool all day. Love our Yetis. And very helpful for taking medicine on the go. This is how I take my daily infusion. I always, in the morning, make my morning infusion, put it in the Yeti, and that way I know I'm getting my 2 to 3 cups in because I'll drink it throughout the day. Measuring cups, a variety of sizes you'll need, as well as measuring spoons. Glass jars, super important. So save all of your glass jars from sauces and jams, mayonnaise. Don't throw any glass jars away. We will reuse those and you will Sanitize those. Don't go out and buy glass jars. Save them from what you're already purchasing in your grocery items. Boston rounds with droppers. So these are helpful. It's nice to have a variety of tincture bottles, basically. If you want, after you make your tincture, you want to directly bottle them. It's nice to have some of these on hand. Maybe just get a pack of a dozen. Funnels, a variety of sizes is really helpful, from canning funnels to smaller funnels, so that you don't spill medicine. That's happened so many times. And then optional, a capsule machine and some capsules. If you'd like to make your own capsules, you can wait till we get to the module on powdered herbs. And then a Levo infuser. So I love my Levo. It's a very convenient and beautiful countertop machine for making infused oils, butters, honeys, etc. You can enter the code I will a remedy to get 10% off should you decide to invest in one. We have a bunch of videos on our Instagram page that is pinned. We also have a YouTube video where we're using our Levo machine. I love it, and I totally abandoned like the old way of making infused oils and butters. I only use the Levo, and it works really well. Now it's time to get into the kitchen to make medicine. So before we do the medicine making demonstration, let's talk about medicinal strength tea. This is our first preparation. How do you make medicinal strength teas? You may know this. You may be an avid tea drinker, but we are going to cover the foundations so that everyone is on the same page. So let's start with some definitions. The words tea and infusion are often used interchangeably, but can have slightly different meanings depending on the context. In the strictest sense, tea refers to specifically beverages made from the leaves of the tea plant, Camellia sinensis. This includes black tea, green tea, white tea, oolong. However, it's common for tea to also be used more broadly to describe any beverage made by steeping plant material in hot water. This can include herbal teas, also known as tisanes, which are made from various plants other than Camellia sinensis. An infusion is a term used to describe the process of steeping plant material, such as leaves, flowers, herbs, or spices, in hot water to extract their flavors, aromas, beneficial compounds. It's a method of preparing a beverage, and it encompasses both true teas made from Camellia sinensis and herbal teas. So in many books, you will read the word infusion over tea to avoid confusion and to encompass other plants, not just green, white, black tea. Additionally, infusions in the herbal world can also be made with cold water, not just hot. I also think of the difference in steeping times of the herb when referring to one or the other as tea or infusion. True tea usually has shorter steeping times, like 3 to 5 minutes or less. Infusions, however, have longer steeping times in my practice. Steeping time can depend on the plant as well. There's a lot of nuance here. And so here's what's important to understand. The longer the steeping time, the more constituents are extracted out of the plant. So here are some principles that facilitate plant extraction. Surface area. So this is how much of the herb is being exposed to the solvent. Think of this like the difference between powdered herbs, lots of herb being exposed to the solvent because it's in a really fine form. It's been cut up so finely, versus if you were to put like a twig or like a pellet into the solvent, into the water. The outer layers are going to be exposed. That's some surface area, but it's going to take more time for that solvent, for that water or whatever solvent you're working with to penetrate to get to the center. So surface area is an important aspect that affects how well we are extracting compounds from plants. Kinetic energy, this is the energy of motion. So this is collision between the water molecules and the plant constituents. The more they collide, the more we're extracting. Time, more time means that there's more opportunities for collision between those molecules, and therefore more is going to be extracted. Temperature, so higher temperatures increase the rate of collision. Therefore, more constituents will be extracted. And then solubility, this is thinking about what's the compatibility between constituents and the solvent. Water, in this case of making infusions. pH, this is the acidity and alkalinity, which we won't cover in this class. So with these principles in mind and with the intent to make medicine that's effective, in my practice, I steep almost all of my water-based infusions for 1 hour up to 24 hours to extract as many of the constituents as possible. Here are a few guidelines. Cover your infusions. When we steep in hot water, the volatile oils get released from the plant, then dissolve into the water, and some of them evaporate from the steam. The volatile oils are largely responsible for the aroma we smell in our spices, and they are highly medicinal, so we don't want to lose those compounds. Infusions can also be made with cold water. I mentioned this. So plants that contain high amounts of mucilage need to be extracted in cooler temperatures because the constituent degrades in hot temperatures. You know mucilage, even if you've never heard the word, it's what makes okra slimy. If you've ever made flaxseed or chia seed gel, it thickens. That's mucilage, and it's excellent for inflammation, soothing, protecting, and healing damaged tissue. When an herb is appropriate for a cold infusion, it will be noted inside of the Materia Medica. Preservation. Remember that water-based infusions are made with water, which is alive and full of microorganisms. So after you infuse, store in the refrigerator and drink within 3 to 5 days or so. Plant parts for infusions. So for infusions, we're using the aerial parts, which are the above ground parts. The stems, the flowers, the leaves, some seeds, some fruit. When we are making water-based infusions with roots, rhizomes, barks, harder seeds, unless we powder them to increase surface area, we refer to those as decoctions, and the process for making those is slightly different. We will cover that in a future lesson. How much plant do you use? So for this class, when referring to infusions, we are all steeping 1 teaspoon of herb into 8 ounces of water. There is a lot of flexibility, and as you get to know the plants individually, you will begin to understand if you need and can tolerate using more herb per 8 ounces. I am referring to an herb that is in loose leaf form, cut and sifted, not powdered. For powdered, use 1/2 teaspoon per 8 ounces, and this is for dried plants. Start low and go slow. Do not make the assumption that you can handle more. One of my students inside Herbal Medicine for the Soul made this mistake because she was already a plant person, had her own medicine line. In the first week of making infusions, she used significantly more herb than instructed because she thought she could handle it, and as a result, she spent a good amount of time on the toilet. She was not allergic, and the herb was not toxic. She experienced the nuances firsthand that come with herbal actions and dosage. The herb was chamomile, and one of its actions is laxative. But this is a dose-dependent activity, and there's a big difference between drinking 1 teaspoon at 8 ounces, which is highly supportive for your digestion, versus several more teaspoons at one time. So please follow the instructions. So now it's time to make your first infusion, your first 2 infusions actually. So you are going to make an infusion with one of the spices in your kitchen. Please use something dried and leafy like oregano, thyme, peppermint, basil, rosemary, parsley, hibiscus, or lavender. You can also use 1 whole bay leaf or 1/2 teaspoon of any of the following ground or powdered herbs: cinnamon, black pepper, ginger, dried ginger, turmeric, cardamom, coriander, sage, garlic. Yes, you can drink garlic tea. If you are unsure of what to use, submit a comment with what's in your kitchen and I'll help you out. The purpose of this assignment is to practice making the infusion correctly and to taste the difference between the 2 different steeping times. So the equipment you'll need: a mug or a glass jar with a cover or small plate, a strainer of some type or a coffee filter, fresh boiled hot water, don't use the microwave to heat your water, and 1/2 teaspoon of your powdered or ground herb, or 1 full teaspoon of your cut loose leaf herb. Step 1, Heat your 8 ounces of water either on the stove or in a kettle. Heat it to boiling, then turn off the heat. If you are using a strainer that fits inside of your mug, place the strainer in the mug. Then place your herb into the strainer, which is inside the mug. If you plan to strain after steeping, then just pour your herb directly into the mug. Pour 8 ounces of hot water into the mug, cover it, and let it steep. Strain after the appropriate time, observe, and taste. Do not sweeten. So you are going to follow these instructions twice. The first time, you'll allow the infusion to steep for 5 minutes. The second time, you'll allow the infusion to steep for 1 hour. Try not to multitask this assignment. Activate your senses, stay present, and observe. You may drink all of both infusions, but do so several hours apart so as to avoid drinking too much at one time. For each cup, I want you to think about how you felt. What did you taste? How did your energy shift? Did it impact your digestion? Did you feel more calm or stimulated? Was there a big color or texture difference between the two infusions? Consider keeping a notebook for your studies as you go through the course like I mentioned. Write down your observations in the notebook. Feel free to share them in the comment section below if you like.